When you think of Japan, you probably imagine a modern society full of weird quirks and idiosyncrasies. Maybe when you think of Japan, you think of high speed subway cars or futuristic toilets with touchscreens, but I want to let you know that a society is not just the sensational stories written about it. And I want to make an argument as to why perhaps this is a place that you wouldn't want to go to. So here are my top 10 reasons to never move to Japan. Number 10, McDonald's. Fast food menus in Japan are notoriously different than those that you could find in the US. And it makes sense, they try to match the culture and taste of the country. In Japan, you could expect to find items such as the garlic pepper spicy chicken McNuggets and the roasted soy sauce bacon tomato thick beef. And the novelty of those items is all well and good, but being in Japan, wouldn't you just miss the beauty of being at somewhere like a Waffle House on a Saturday night and you're eating your food and there's a group of young men by the front door and they just happen to be fighting over some trivial nonsense and my chef is over there and she's smoking a cigarette. And so she just happens to be 3 months pregnant. I'm just saying, if you were in Japan, wouldn't you miss that about back home? Number 9, things to do. So let's say it's Friday afternoon and you're at work. We're in the US in this situation, right? You walk up to your coworker Bob at the Keurig because you guys have started to bond over your mutual need for a 3:30 p.m. coffee, and you say, "Hey Bob, what are you doing tonight? The big game is tonight. It's Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. Let's go watch that." And Bob says, "Let's do it." None of that exchange would be the same in Japan. Football isn't even popular there. Sumo wrestling is the thing to watch, and sports like baseball and soccer are pretty popular there too. So, in that same conversation with Bob, you would say something along the lines of, "Hey Bob, what are you doing tonight? We can go down to the dojo and watch big guy number 1 push big guy number 2 out of the circle." And he says, "Yeah, I love watching big guy number 2. He won an award last year for pushing big guys out of circles." Also, you guys wouldn't be drinking coffee. You guys would be drinking some weird milk product with bubbles in it. Number 8, population density. Tokyo is a really packed city, and this is evidenced by things like capsule hotels and Shibuya Crossing, an intersection where more than 2,500 people cross every 3 minutes. And the thing about really densely packed places is that I just have this terrible fear that I would go into a big mass of people and I would come out and one of my limbs would just be missing. And I don't know which limb, in this fear I have in my head, I don't have a specific limb that's gone, but I just think one of them would be missing. Number 7, no work-life balance. So let's just say you got a new job in Japan, right? You've got a job as a designer, and your boss, Mr. Takayoshi, has been breathing down your neck for those new designs for the brand new 2024 Toyota Highlander. And you've been working hard, and at work you've become a little bit sleepy, right? Whereas in America, sleeping at your desk would make people think that you're probably drunk or something like that. Mr. Takayoshi seeing that you've fallen asleep at your desk in Japan has showed that, man, you have the can-do attitude necessary for this job. And now Mr. Takayoshi wants to promote you. So now you're falling asleep with the best of them. You're sleeping with the CEO. You're sleeping with the chair. Well, it actually doesn't. In a high-stress, high-burnout environment in Japan, it can be seen as noble and admirable to fall asleep at your desk because it shows how hard you've worked. But I could think of numerous reasons why I would fall asleep at my desk, and I don't think they'd be related to my work ethic. The only reason why I'd probably be falling asleep at work was because I was probably up late all night watching videos of middle-aged nerds cutting water bottles with medieval swords. Number 6. Japan is stuck in the past with fax machines and old website designs still being popular. Everyone has a seal that they use to sign their names. It honestly feels like a bureaucratic nightmare. If I saw someone still using a fax machine in 2023, I would also assume that they grow aloe vera plants in their backyard and that they also collect artifacts from the Cuban Missile Crisis and that they also eat Vicks Vapor Rub. Number 5, crazy weather. Japan has a pretty warm climate, and that's also paired with having some pretty crazy natural disasters like tsunamis. And the thing about tsunamis is that you can't really reason with a tsunami. You can't reason with any natural disaster. Like, at least with, a terrible situation like a war or something, there's a government involved, and you could speak with that rival government and be like, "Hey, listen, I see why you're mad. You're mad that you ran out of crops and we still have crops, so you want some of our crops. So here, let me just, break you off a little something, get you right, and then how about you sign this little treaty? Whereas, with a tsunami, you can't bargain with a 80-foot tsunami coming your way because the tsunami has nothing to gain. Number four, rules. In Japan, there are just way too many rules and such an adherence to tradition. When I feel like there are too many rules on me, I want to break out. In Japan, you have to make noises when you eat, otherwise you're seen as disrespectful, and you can't fold your arms in front of your superior, otherwise you're seen as disrespectful, or you can't show up a minute late, otherwise you're seen as disrespectful. It's really a society where value is placed on your superior and your elders, and that's well and good. But I think of the fact that at one point I had a teacher who there was this rumor going around that she hadn't done her taxes for 14 years, and every time you talked to her she seemed like frazzled, and she always had these overdrafts in her account, and her account was always in the negative. And it's not really like a huge deal, but I just wonder if that's the same person that I should be treating like the Prince of Zamunda every time I see them. Number three, any outsider is seen as a foreigner. The Japanese are a very insular people. I've heard and read stories of immigrants feeling as if they were never fully accepted into Japanese society. And, the markers of a Japanese person are not only skin deep, but they also relate to the cultural customs and the rules and the etiquette that person follows. And so when a person doesn't follow that structure, it becomes quickly apparent to the Japanese that that person isn't one of them, and in which case they're then treated differently. Not necessarily worse, but differently. Like imagine you went to the most hipster event that you could think of, and you happen to be wearing khakis. That's what I think it would be like to try to be accepted into Japanese society. Number two, politics. I've really been interested in what's been going on with the assassination of Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister of Japan. And I was reading up a little bit more about it, and I guess the story is essentially that there's this really niche church in Japan called the Unification Church, and there was this guy whose mother donated like all of her life savings to the church, and this guy was really mad about that, and so he thought that Shinzo Abe was taking money from that really niche church, so that's why this guy went and assassinated him. Do you understand how insane that sounds? That's like if someone thought Barack Obama was taking money and donations from Scientologists, and so this guy tried to off Barack Obama because he thought his family was destroyed by Scientology. That's insane. And the number one, final reason why you should never move to Japan: stagnant economy. The Japanese economy hasn't grown significantly over the last couple of decades, and you could chalk that up to a couple of different reasons. While big economies like America have populations where they spend and invest in new startups and big companies, Japanese people actually have a penchant of saving a lot of their money. And I don't fault the Japanese people. I mean, the rational thing to do is to save all of your money. But at the end of the day, like, I think there is also a big lore in not being responsible with your money. On the one hand, like, in my mind, I know that the responsible thing to do would be to maybe put my money in a fixed rate CD and watch all of my life savings grow at 3.3% over a number of years. Or I could buy a freaking Bengal tiger, bro. Like, that'd be so sick. Like, if I owned my own Bengal tiger, that would be tight. Anyway, those are the top 10 reasons why you should never move to Japan.